Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Tabatt with you on another edition of our military community, and we've got a great interview set up today. I've got two young ladies that are with me, and we're going to talk about families. A lot of times, military families kind of get neglected a little bit. Well, this community loves their families, and both of our military bases love the families also, and they have special people to help them get set up and everything and answer any questions they may have. So joining me today are Erin Gaal and Rachel Merritt, both from NSA Panama City, and it's FFSC, okay? Over there at the Navy base, in other words. But before we get started with the interview, I want to talk a little bit to each one of you and get to know you. So our audience gets to know you a little bit. Rachel, let's start with you.
So, as you said, I'm Rachel. I have been with Fleet and Family for about a year. I worked at the Child Development Center before that, and now I get to work with Erin.
Yeah. That's a pretty good compliment for
I tell you.
us. What about you, Erin?
Well, I'm Dr. Erin Gaal. I'm a counseling psychologist by trade before I came and took this position. I was married in the Army for 21 years. That did not prepare me much for the Navy, though. It's a whole different language, but I do have a love for military families. And when this opportunity came my way, I just had to get involved, and I'm back where I belong, in the military family.
Yeah, and that's what's so important about this, and thank you for your service, too, is military members, ex-military members, retired military members, whatever you want to call them, we understand how important families are. So families are so important to us, and if it wouldn't be for our family, the military member themselves would have a hard time adopting. So, but let's get into it.
May I say real quick that when I was married in the Army, my husband was deployed 14 times in 21 years. It was very difficult. I ran the FRG groups. And so I saw firsthand, because we got married right before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
And then our lives completely changed. So when I say I have a love and I understand their issues that they have, I was a spouse that had similar issues, especially during our deployment.
And that's where we can draw on that experience. First of all, Erin, what is FFSC?
It's Fleet and Family Support Center.
Okay.
We just call it Fleet and Family to make it a lot easier.
And you know, these families that are coming in, some of them may have spouses that this is their first time at a military base in the United States. They may not speak the language or anything. We're going to talk about that, but families have a great diversity of backgrounds on this, Rachel. And what do you encounter as far as language problems? Do you have any language problems that you do see that makes it difficult at times?
Well, we haven't come across too many yet, but we're growing up in an age where, there's apps to help us with language barriers. We have classes that we can take to better understand our knowledge. I speak broken Spanish, so I can kind of assist in that area. But we haven't come across too many, but we do have all of these different sources that we can kind of tap into and to be able to help spouses, if it's a spouse or an active duty member as well.
And let's say here in the family comes in, like you, the husband who's in the military and the wife, and she's not of U.S. origin.
Yes.
She doesn't speak English. What is the first thing you try to do when that family walks into your office?
Well, we try to get a translator. So if it's Spanish, Rachel can assist. If it's Japanese or something like that, what we do is we pull out the AI. And so when we're filling out the initial paperwork, we take a picture of it, it goes to the app, and then we fill it in step by step. And it's especially important to fill out the Privacy Act forms and the Client Rights and Responsibility forms, those kind of things. So we take great effort there.
That she has Spanish in her background. Believe it or not, I spent 4 years in Tokyo and learned to speak some Japanese over there.
We'll be calling on you.
But again, that language problem is a lot of times it's the attitude. When they see you, when you walk in, if you were just sitting back at your desk and But you give them a smile, you may give them a hug, you want something to drink or something, immediately
Yes.
people can react. It doesn't make any difference what your ethnic background is. You react to one another with kindness. So that's what's great about that. Now, probably one of the biggest things when a family first comes in,
Yes.
and I'm sure you both have some stories you can share on this, is, especially says Michael, military housing is non-existent.
Mhm.
These families come in, they may have children, they may not. Their first thing is, where am I going to live? What do you guys do?
Go ahead, you're fine.
Housing technically is not a fleet and family service. So what we normally do is figure out what their need is. And thankfully, housing is our neighbor. We're in building 387 and they're right next door. So we walk them over and introduce them to either Paula, Sonia, or Trudy. Those are the three ladies that are in the front. So we give them what they call a warm handoff because it's not one of our areas of expertise.
And that's what's so important, is they get to realize immediately that it's just family services. You're just not a separate little entity.
Right.
You actually have the support of it all opens up and everything. And this is what's so unique about it and everything. As far as housing goes again, what is the outlook there on the base? I know I talked to Commander Mosey several weeks ago. We did an interview with him, and he said they're trying, but is development happening over there now?
There's so much development happening because of Michael. A lot of the buildings have been having to be torn down and then rebuilt. And I do know that housing, I think there was only one unit that was available. And I know that part of what housing does is they also have resources right off base. So within 5 or 10 minutes, they also supply the other addresses and they can go check it out.
And that's what's good. Anything to add on the housing thing there?
We just have a lot of resources. So luckily there is an app that they have where it can show everything within a certain radius that you put, and it will show houses that are either for rent, for sale. They have lists. I mean, they're constantly updating those lists as well.
And that's what's good. So you work very closely then with that housing agency, and then they can get the assistance they need through different agencies and everything. One of the other big things, and I'm in the Chamber of Commerce, and one of the things that we're really working hard on is childcare.
Yes.
And I know that's a big issue. Rachel, let's start with you on this one. Childcare, what's the difficulties involved with that?
The space. So we are a small base. We are only allowed a certain amount of children in each. So for the younger ones, they are in, what are they called? The mobiles? That's not the correct word, but they're little mobile units. And one is for preschool, and then the other one is for infant and toddler. And I believe in the infant room, there's only 8 spaces.
Wow.
Yeah. So my daughter is in the toddler side, and spaces don't very much open often. So it's hard, and there's a long list, but there's constant families getting transferred. So you have to get on that list, and we try to set them up to make it easy. Whenever they call and are looking at childcare options, I try to let them know all the paperwork they need to fill out to get on that list right away, even if they're not PCSing yet, so that they can be on the list as high as possible. Luckily, I have Miss Cindy, who I worked under before. She is an absolute plethora of information, and she loves the kids that she works for. So she's always ready to help. If I ever have a question, she's the one I go to. So there's options. And then off base, they also have as well lists. So,
Yeah, and that's one of the things, let's face it, military families don't make a lot of money. And there is this misconception still out there that don't worry about it. The government pays for all of this. The government pays you a little subsistence for your housing, and that's it. It doesn't even cover the housing costs. So when Rachel was talking about off-base facilities for childcare,
Right.
there is money involved. How do you guys deal with something like that? I mean, to me, that would be heartbreaking. A family that cannot afford to put their child in a child care daycare or something. How do you deal with that?
A lot of times if a family comes in and that's their situation, they can't get a space on base and it's too expensive for them off base, oftentimes the non-military spouse will make that choice not to seek employment. That saves them money, and then she spends the time with the kids. Then we have Erin Picard, who's a school liaison officer, and oftentimes she can try to hook them in depending on the age of the child, whether it's pre-K services. So she'll go to each school and find out what they offer. Even if it's not a full program, hopefully it'll afford them a couple of hours and a little bit of a break. If they qualify for EFMP, then there's what they call respite care, respite hours that they can try to apply for. So it really is a case-by-case basis. Oftentimes, though, the spouse does want to work, and it really is an issue.
Yeah.
She or he has their own career.
It's almost a necessity at times with the prices that are now. One of the things you had hit a little bit on you speak some Spanish, and you can help deal with that. How are these children, and sometimes these children are coming in that are 3, 4 years old, they don't even know that hello means hi, how are you doing? They have this language problem. How can you, not only do you have the mother and the father sitting there that are concerned, but you have the child all of a sudden that doesn't understand it. Is there an avenue that you can get them help to, that say there's some of the off-base facilities and things that can help them with the language barrier?
A lot of the times, they will try to get a translator and work with them. I know at the CYP, there's a couple times that has happened, and Miss Cindy kind of researches, sees if she can help them in any way, see what their needs are, assess that, and then go from there. They're always willing to work with any language barrier. They really want to assist the families where they need to be assisted. So that is never it's an obstacle, but it's a non-obstacle, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. But one other thing too is a lot of people don't realize either that once you have someone that you assist them and send them the right direction to housing, you send them in the right direction to child care, you just don't say, good job, it's all over with. No, it doesn't work that way. You do follow-up, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely do. Depending on what the resources and the options were, we definitely try to do the follow-up. Our work and family life counselor, we have that position gapped right now, but we have a new lady starting on December the 30th. So we'll get her up and running, and she will be the primary point of contact to do those follow-ups for us.
Then it's got to be comforting to these families coming in here to know that they're not going to be thrown to the wolves. They're going to have someone there. It makes them feel good, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm a spouse, and coming to a new base, or, I mean, even if they're coming from a different country or there is that language barrier, it's scary. It is. So I'm glad that we're there to be able to assist them in that way.
And to me, it's more difficult on military families because military families are not built around the civilian school facilities where they are out in the summer for vacation. You know, they may get assignment orders to come in January.
It's true.
They may come in February or March. So they're coming in. Not only are they trying to deal with this transition, but they're coming into a school system that they have to get into immediately. Do you do any work with the schools to help them in that respect too?
Mm-hmm. Fleet and Family doesn't do that, but Erin Picard does that. She's our school liaison officer, and she is a fireball. She knows everybody. Yeah. She does go to the chamber events. I do know that. And she literally will take any extra step needed to get the needs of that family and that child taken care of, whether they're special needs or not, whether they're looking at different programs in different schools. She was a teacher first, and then she put all her kids through the school, and then she became the school liaison officer. So if there's anything in that area, she is always our first call.
And that's what's really good. I mean, the Navy is great with this, the Air Force and everything, is the military just doesn't let their families go.
Mm-hmm.
They help them out. They let them know what resources and everything are available. And I know it's comforting to the family. When I see the smiles on your faces, it makes you feel good to know that you're there to help somebody.
Absolutely.
We got the school taken care of. We got the child care taken care of. We got the housing taken care of.
Yes.
The military families like to stay fit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they like to stay fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot different coming from, say, Japan or Germany than being born and raised here in the States, because recreational activities are different. Do you have any program set up where you can help kids with recreation, like when mom and dad are gone and things like that, or at the child care facilities? What do you do for recreation? Because these kids, those that are coming in that don't understand English, have no idea what you're trying to do. How do you deal with something like that? To me, that'd be quite difficult.
There is lots of support on our base. I know there's a few groups that get together every once in a while and get their kids and the families so that they can play baseball, softball. There's lots of amenities on our base. We have tennis courts, racquetball courts. We have an outside gym, an inside gym. That's all been redone and getting new machines.
Right.
New pickleball courts. Don't forget the pickleball.
Yeah.
That's for us old guys.
Me too.
And then we also have our marina that has lots of amenities. I mean, they have the paddle boards. They have little, I believe, boats.
They do. They have playgrounds everywhere. Trails.
That's what's good about it. And before we move on to something else here, we live in an area where water. Families that are coming in from the Midwest don't understand, that bay out there is different than the family swimming pool, or different from the lake they have back home. Is there any activities on base to help the families? I know the Coast Guard helps a lot with that, but do you guys do anything to help families learn about the dangers associated with our water, even though it's beautiful, or there's problems out there?
Well, MWR, I know, Tarita, I believe is her name. She's the instructor. So when she has the group and they're out there learning to paddleboard, as an example, I know that they do a little 20-minute blurb on before they start getting into the water. And I know they have a swimming pool, and in the summer they did offer swim lessons. So when we're walking around, we saw the kids out there in their little floaties learning how to swim. So I do believe MWR would handle those.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And then what we're talking about, that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, that there's all kinds of things going on. What about field trips? Do you take the kids on field trips?
Tell them that. Rachel, tell them about the field trip.
Okay, so we do have a lot of people that come onto base and they get tours at the dive school. But the CYP does so many field trips during the summer. It is insane in a good way.
I would like to go.
Yes, everywhere that there is to go view, they go do it. I think this summer my kids even went as far as the aquarium that is it's past Destin.
Okay.
They take them everywhere.
They went shipwreck.
Ripley's.
Ripley's.
That's what's good.
Yeah, and the Upside Down building, they went to Rocket Lanes, I think. They went just to all the local fun touristy things for kids. Putt-putt. I know that they bowled. Anyway, I got to talk to Miss Cindy, and she was exhausted. By the end of the summer, she was like, I am so field tripped out.
She runs around with them.
That's good, because it takes these kids' minds off the things that are going on around them, and that way they can have a chance to relax, meet with their friends. And that is one thing, too, that I wanted to talk about, is the friendships that are developed, not only with these families and the children, you develop it, but the children develop it with other kids and everything. How does that work, where you can just see them blossom? You put strangers together, 8 kids together, say that are strangers. All of a sudden, it's like they've been together for their entire life. How does that work?
So there's a lot of kids that are used to moving. And so they're a blessing, because the kids that are new and scared, they just wrap their arms around them. It's a really beautiful little kid community on the base. I mean, you see so many friendships made. They're so sweet to each other, and they're really supportive of each other. Then they go off to school where they have their little CYP community, and then you see them at school. They're all hanging out. They're all making sure each other are good, and it's...
And that's the thing. If kids are made to feel comfortable, kids are kids. They can adopt any situation. I mean, when I was over in Japan, I spent 4 years over there, and I've seen American kids and Japanese kids that neither one of them could speak the other language, but yet they had a great time together. They were laughing together, and they were talking to one another, but no one could understand the language. But they had this sense of belonging, so they get to know one another, and it makes them feel good, and they're just willing to participate.
Right.
And you hit on something I do want to talk about, Rachel, is, and you know very well about this too, Erin. You said you were deployed 21 times. Families are constantly moving. It could be just mom and dad, mom and dad and the kids. I mean, it used to be if you got to a base, you stayed there for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Now, you're lucky if you get 2 years. So there's two sides to this, deployments and actual moving away to a different base. I'm going to start with you on this one, Erin, because you talked about the deployments. Talk about the hardships involved when deployments come up. I mean, it's not easy. If it's the man that's in the military, then suddenly the lady has become mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
If the lady's in the military, suddenly the dad is dad and mom. There's a lot of problems. How do you deal with it?
They are personally or in my role as fleet and family.
You did pretty good, I understand that. But no, as your role there in fleet and family.
Right. So we're not a deploying base. We're basically a training base. So what does happen is sometimes they'll have an IA, an individual augmentee situation where the service member is tasked to go somewhere else for a period of time. What we try to do is bring them in as a family. And again, this is normally a work and family life counselor position. And she will try to make sure that the staying behind family has all the resources that are needed, all the ways they can keep in touch, and just basically line them up for those things. They also do the therapy, right, for the separation, and how they're going to keep the communication. And then they know that we are there as fleet and family should another need come up.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, that they know someone is there to help them. Now,
Agreed.
family gets orders. They're now here in Panama City, and all of a sudden, dad gets orders. They're going to Germany. Families don't deal with that real well. That suddenly they're leaving their friends, they're leaving what they're familiar with. How does Fleet Family take care of that?
So we have a sponsorship program within our Fleet and Family that we give briefings on, and we actually have people within every unit that would be a sponsorship person. So they will make contact with the family that's either coming to our base, or we will set them up with a person from the next base that they're going to. That is a work and family life sponsorship program. I've assisted in it, so luckily I can talk about it. It's a great program. They set the families up with any information they need to know. We ourselves have welcome packets that shows them everything that is around us, everything that's located on our base, who they can call for information. A lot of the times I'll get calls and they'll have questions about, the housing situation. So I'll give them my information and rundown, and then pass them off and give them a warm handoff to the next person. So we make sure they have that support and they're not feeling scared, hopefully, or like they don't have the information they need.
And that's what's good.
Right.
You wanted to add something, I could tell.
Well, I just was thinking when Rachel was talking about when we got deployed to Germany, I was like, I don't speak a word of German, but we had exactly what Rachel was saying. We had contact with our sponsor family. We got there. They picked us up at the airport. They drove us there. We had a full week of acclimation. So there are these resources in place to help that family. But moving overseas, I think, is more stressful than moving somewhere stateside because of the inherent language
Sure.
problem.
But the thing about that is, and I know from my Air Force career and being around things like this and spending 4 years in Japan and 1 year in Korea, people have to understand that when they go to another country, they're not being sent there for people to make fun of them or anything like that. They're being sent there because they're representing the United States of America through the military. And what they need to do is they need to not just sit around on a base and be comfortable. They need to go out into the community and learn other people's customs. Now, you help them in that respect, Rachel. You just talked about, you got the sponsor package. Do you tell them that, just because you're going to Germany doesn't mean that you don't have to sit in your house. You can go out into the community.
Yes. So we have lists and booklets and, fun things to do with the family. We even have a bucket list of 10 things that the family should try to do while they're here. We want them to spread their wings and enjoy things while they're here, especially in Panama City. It's so beautiful. There's so many opportunities. So we make sure they're connected, and, sometimes we can set them up with someone that's already done this, and, they can go together as families. And we don't want them to just sit here on base. We want them to enjoy.
And that's the good thing about it too, is you go to especially another country and you experience that with your deployments and things, that it makes the other people that you're going to in their country, it makes them feel good too that you're trying to learn a little bit.
It does.
So imagine you could tell the kids like, hey, this is a learning experience. You may not ever get to experience this because a lot of kids don't get to leave the United States.
It's true. That's true. And in Germany, my son learned how to play soccer at Schaffhausen, this little tiny village just outside of Stuttgart. And again, it was just like you said, he did not speak anything but soccer German, but they all got along great, and it was a fantastic experience. But a lot of families didn't leave base, and that's why.
What's bad, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced that too. I just can't wait till I leave here and go back to the States, and I'd look at it and say,
You're missing it.
have you ever been outside that gate right there? Some neat food out there. They got neat people, markets, things like that. Go experience it. We got one more thing that I need to get in before the clock rings on us is, and I'll ask each of you that, and I'll start with you, Rachel. What do you consider the biggest question that comes to you from a family at Fleet?
A lot of people don't know they can utilize us. So we've really tried to spread our own wings and get out to the different commands. We're there to support all branches that are on our base.
Yes.
Now, Coast Guard has their own chain that they can go to, but if those needs aren't being met, again, we're here. I mean, our policy is there's no wrong door policy. We want them to come in. We want them to try to stump us and ask a question that, now I got to go research and find an answer for you. So they're always welcome. We always have warm coffee for them, and we want them to come in and talk to us.
And that's what's great, Erin, about military families. You don't have just like, okay, this is a Navy base here on the beach now. Only Navy people there. They have Army, they have the Marines, they have the Air Force and everything. People still have difficulty understanding that it doesn't make any difference. One color uniform,
Agree.
all having one cause. So, let's learn from that. What's the biggest question you think you've had as you deal with this over the years?
Well, I think it's what Rachel had said, because they think, oh, well, you work at Fleet and Family. Oh, well, I can't come to you. I can't. I'm like, well, why not? Because even if you're a civilian, walk in the door. Because if we can't service you directly, we can hook you up with whatever resource will help you with whatever needs you present. And the CO's vision is to wrap his arms around everybody in the base and by extension, everybody in the community. Right. So what we've tried to do is we leave our offices and we go out, whether it's the tenant commands or whether it's the chamber meetings or whether it's the Panhandle Health Alliance or whatever it is. We try to be involved in the community for his vision.
And you don't have to be active duty or dependent. You actually talk to retired military people too, don't you?
Yes.
And that's what's good about that. We've got 2 minutes to go before I have to be quiet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give each one of you about 45 seconds to give me your final thoughts. And Erin, we'll start with you. What are your final thoughts?
Okay, very good. Well, when I first got there, it'll be 9 months now, met with the CO, and he explained to me kind of his vision, what he wanted to accomplish. And Rachel and I went to all the tenant commands, did a needs assessment with each of the commanders. What are you seeing and how can we partner with you to try to fill the needs? And that has been our goal, at least in the last 9 months that I've been involved. We go to all the indocs, we go to their events. We want just to be part of the community. We want to make it so it's not awkward for them to walk in our doors and say, hey, I have a question, or hey, I have a need. We're just trying to make the office more hospitable. Rachel does a great job with our coffee bar, our cocoa bar. We have tea. She's the first smiling face that anybody sees. We've done some renovations. So
Rachel did bring me coffee.
I should have came ready. I should have done that.
Rachel, your final thoughts.
I want them to come in. Every time we go to an indoc or a briefing, I always tell them, I'm the first person you're going to see. Come see me. Come get coffee for me. Come talk. It doesn't have to be so scary to come talk to us. We're here to support them while they're on our installation, and we want them to feel welcome. We try to get out as much as we can so that they can feel like they're getting to know us, and, it's just coming and talking to a friend. It doesn't have to be for a specific service even.
And from talking to both of you today, I get the impression like it's two moms saying, come and see us. We care about you. And
Pretty much.
That's exactly. And a lot of people that are not associated with the military and don't understand that. I got to wrap this up. Rachel, Erin, thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you for what you do out there. And Keep up the good work and let us know if we can help you out.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it for this edition of our military community. Remember, be kind to our military. They're there to help you. I'm Jerry Tabatt. Have a great day.